Kiswa Kaka, Dale Rastafari, and I'm still trying, giving you them trying. Kiswa Kaka.
Reggae music has always played a significant and important role in the resistance, the liberation, and the restoration of Black people's dignity. Reggae music has always centralized itself around Pan-Africanism and Black consciousness. Today, reggae music has contributed in the liberation of countries like South Africa. Today, reggae music needs to be documented and archived and published to the entire world so that they can know the contribution and the impact that reggae music played in the liberation of the people. Greetings, my name is Ras Pablo. Let me take you through the custodians and practitioners of this culture of reggae music. Yes, sir. Greetings once again. We are still here in Lichtenberg. We are at the Lichtenberg Transport Museum for the documentation of reggae music. As to why we came to the Transport Museum, you'll find it out later from my guest. This is Ras Jeffrey Molapisi. Greetings, I give thanks. Blessed love. Can you just introduce yourself briefly, your profile and what you do?
As stated, I'm called Ras Jeffrey Molapisi, originally from Itusen Township, which is plus minus 17 kilometers from here. In reality, the name of this museum is the Northwest Agriculture Museum, where we are in Lichtenberg, where I am the museum curator or manager as of October 2020. But generally, I am the museums and heritage practitioner in the province.
Museum heritage practitioner in the province. My elder also runs an institution, Ras Molapisi institution, that deals with the same program, Heritage and Museum. It's an anthropologist by academic profession. Yes, I am also a curator. We are documenting reggae right now. And can you just elaborate on reggae as a Rasta heritage or as an African heritage? How is reggae a Rasta heritage or an African heritage?
True that. Reggae as a music genre, and as we know, the origins are in Jamaica, in Kingston, in the islands, where often when I explain to people, I say in reality it was a rebirth in Jamaica, because if you look at the aspects of reggae, particularly what they call the drum and the bass, is derived from African cultures, a diversity of African cultures, so the drum and the bass form a critical role in reggae music.
Yes, I.
And we have seen, even with the evolution of reggae and new concepts coming to being of dancehall, raga, and so forth.
Yes, I.
That particular tradition still forms the central pillar of the music, which is a cultural expression.
Yes, I.
A cultural expression of what we can say the downtrodden people or the poor people, who found themselves in slavery, plantation, and they decided that to initiate or create a musical expression that will define their lifestyle and how they interact with the system.
Yes,
will be advisable, to tell to the world the political, economic, and social conditions of where they are. So now reggae became associated with the Rasta people.
Yes,
because in reality it was created by the Rasta people, but eventually it became globalized.
Yes,
you know, everyone who has a passion in culture and heritage, you know,
Yes,
participated in reggae music. That is why you've got a whole lot of musicians who are not necessarily
Rasta.
into Rasta
Yes,
way of living. You know, so that's how one can describe it. So what I can also say is that when I read in the documented articles is that some people argue that reggae in reality started in the 1960s, but I beg to differ with them because they often look at the era of the Wailers.
Yes,
That's
sir.
where they
Yes, sir.
define reggae. And
Yes,
I say in reality, Bob, Peter, and Barney were actually taught by somebody,
Yes, sir.
you know, to play reggae properly. You take that person
They were
called-
singing blues.
he played,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, that guy called Joe Hicks,
Yes, sir.
you know, who actually was a main instrument in tutoring these three brothers.
I never knew about the man.
You know, he's the one who actually taught these three brothers, and I've got a lot of movies whereby he said he wouldn't even allow them to go to stage until they pass a certain standard, you know,
Get you.
of playing.
Yes, sir.
And I remember one day Banuela said they used to be sent to the graves to sing and sing and sing, you know, until they were ready and brave to face the world. So that's how actually Joe Hicks trained these three people who actually, according to me, led to the widespread of
Reggae music.
Nobody, you know, but reggae was still there because it's associated with genres such as your ska, your rocksteady,
Yeah.
and even deriving from jazz and other
Yes,
music.
sir.
Like we said, African music takes a fundamental role in the reggae expression. You know, also take into account what they say a heartbeat.
Yes,
you
sir.
know,
The 1-2 beat.
Simply.
Yes, sir.
So that has an influence into reggae music, and that is an African cultural heritage, if you look at it.
Yes, sir.
Because drums plays a very critical role in most of in all African cultural heritage and traditions.
Yes, sir. Now, bringing this African heritage of reggae, as you rightfully said, it was started as a response to slavery and colonialism by African sons and daughters who were taken from Africa by slavery to work in cotton fields and sugarcane plantation for the Europeans. So they have to revolt against the true West-sounded power.
Yes.
Now, bringing it home in South Africa, within the context of South Africa, how is this heritage relevant to our, one could say, our experience as Africans on the continent?
Fascinating subject. In reality, what I can say, the central theme in reggae music
Yes, sir.
is Africa.
Yes, sir.
Even though it's about the world.
Yes, sir.
You know, you've got connotations that goes Africa for the Africans, you know, things
Those
like
at
that.
home, those at home and abroad.
You
Yes, sir.
understand? And most of the these songs of Bunny Spear where he says an African leader or African teacher, things
African
like
teacher.
you know. So the relationship between reggae and Africa is very close and
Yes,
cannot be divorced.
Yes, sir.
That's why I often ask myself, you know, these popular artists, and I think you also addressed it in the Reggae Institution program. They are well known and they manage to be economically well off.
Yes,
and
sir.
there is what we call social justice.
Yes, sir.
You know, especially to Africa. You know, Rita Mali has got an NGO in Ghana and a citizenship, but I see as reggae musicians and particularly Rasta people, you know, what is it that they are doing to change or to even contribute towards the political, economic and social problems of us
Our
as in
people,
those
yes,
who
sir.
are here in the African continent, you know.
Yes, sir.
Because recognition of reggae here at home, one can say is not as much strong as it is
True.
global.
True.
You know, that is why even when you look at things like your awards for summer,
Yes, sir.
let's take this popular one. It's the reason that they added a reggae category in that particular awards. You know, but if you look at other things such as media, clothing, because you know, reggae also goes beyond just an expression. You know, it has a what you call it, a subculture of the way you dress, the way you speak. You know, the way
the image.
The image. You understand? So that image, we have not seen it intensified in Africa. You know, in terms of funding, for example, in terms of having programs and projects, you know, that are supported by both the public and the private, as it is done international. And one other thing is, when an international icon comes to Africa, especially South Africa, we still follow the top-down approach. You know, when the artist will go to Johannesburg, Cape Town, and
the big
cities, you know, and then you ask yourself, but the content of reggae, it's all about poverty, unemployment.
Is it relevant there?
Is it relevant there?
Is it geographically relevant?
You understand? And what are they doing, those who are organizing these particular programs, to ensure that the downtrodden people also participate in one way or the other? You understand? So ours, you can say, we know about reggae by just buying a CD, a USB, going to the internet, buying t-shirts, you understand? And then when Motabaruka comes, which is a set part that I even experienced when I was in Pretoria, you will talk and thereafter there is no tangible program or project that is
put in place.
And then we, the local people, especially Rasta people, we rush there, we want to take a picture with you to be next to the
celebrity.
Social media, I don't know what impact it does. Yes, it's nice for your social curriculum, you know, but I say, and I always play away from those particular kind of activities, you know, because I'm still asking myself, you know, when I listen to it, you know, but and even critically asking myself, why are you a Rasta man?
Yes, sir.
You know, what is the role of reggae in Africa and African problems?
Yes, sir.
You understand? And it's a big challenge with reggae. And the answer, I do not have all the answers.
Yeah, man.
You know, but it's a critical question that I think we need to begin to ask ourselves that particular question in relation to how we relate to the world.
Yes, sir.
Because reggae, it is argued, it's about challenging the status quo.
Cool, yeah, man.
You know, I remember when we went back to school after I left school for 4 years in 1995, we were dreadlocked, and we said we are coming to school with dreadlocks. That was a surprise to people, that what type of individuals
are these?
Who are these with this ragged hair wanting to come from to school, and they say they are not going to cut their hair, and New South Africa allows them to school. You know, that particular, you know, programs and activities. You know, we do not have something that I can say that the center can hold.
Yes, sir.
You know, like other communities. I often say to people, you know, when the Muslims go to church at 1 o'clock, they go and strategize. You know, and if you look at Islamic, in fact, it's derived from Gavism.
Yes, sir.
They stole Gavism, these guys, and they realized that these guys are fastest, and they went away with our way of life that we were supposed to be. You know. So those are the questions that I often ask myself. Now, another question that I asked myself was that Oprah Winfrey came to South Africa and proposed to build a multi-million school because it's got dollars.
Yes, sir.
And then I view my brethren Winston Rodney buying a wonderful stadium house in New York or it's in Paris. I said, but is it possible for him to build just a multi-purpose center in one township?
name. Yes, sir.
You know, so those are the things that you even ask yourself, what does Rasta means from the article point of view, you understand, versus the challenges that we see on a day-to-day lives and how I express myself, Badwa and all that, that type of thing.
Yes, sir. Very interesting point. You mentioned about Benny Spear earlier on, about his song African Teacher. We are not educated until we are taught by an African teacher. And now, as you have just said, you've just instead of investing in Africa, you went and built a center in New York that he never sang about, but he sang about Africa. So the question is, reggae music, as we said, it was a response to colonialism and slavery. Now, in this current dispensation, we see African countries having black leaders. African people are no longer under colonization and slavery. Can we still say reggae music still relevant? Or maybe it's taking the direction that the elder Benny Spear is taking to say, no, we don't necessarily have to go to Africa, we can be global. So is it still relevant? Is it still relevant?
Yes, I do that. Wonderful question. In fact, one can also say reggae has been excessively commercialized and modified. It's all about dollars. Yes, dollars is important. But is there that social justice for one another, that I that we have in our dialogue, or what you call vocabulary, and reggae is still relevant because reggae is about telling the people about the political, economic, social and cultural environments that they are living in, whether it's good or bad. Yes, sir. We don't have to be always negative and critical and look at the bad things. Yes, but we can sing about the wonderful things, that is reggae music. Hence we've got what we say, that that we spoke about,
yes, sir,
which is the heartbeat. So for me, reggae will always be relevant, but it will be up to the participants, especially the musicians and the custodians who are the Rasta people.
Yes,
to give it a direction,
and
give it a direction how we need to also be professional,
yes, sir,
and stop being mouthpiece too much, start to put things down in terms of policies, and establish structures, because we often talk about things like in our community and government and so forth, and then I ask myself, how do we define government in our city versus government that exists, that has prime ministers, presidents, cabinets, departments, and so forth?
Yes, sir.
So
it is, yeah. Well, but another question in addition to that was that it's public knowledge that reggae has contributed in the liberation struggle of South Africa. Can we dwell into that?
Excessively, my friend. And the sad part is it's not even recognized, because if you listen to, I'm going to go back again to the elder. He's got a song where he mentioned most of the political icons, including our father, Polikata Mandela,
Nelson Mandela,
and there were even shows that were organized globally. Free South Africa, So you see, reggae played a very positive role towards the liberation of South Africa, as much as other music did. But now, the recognition of that genre, to say this genre played a role towards where we are, I suppose has been washed away.
Yeah.
I remember one time, one chap who was working in government In fact, he was having a conversation with HOD. And HOD said, why don't you do a Rasta event? You know, and this chap had that in mind, but because of the negative approach that the recent or the post apartheid government has adopted to see the reggae and Rastafari people as enemies. That's where the problem lies, because I suppose they fail to understand the gist of what these people stand for, and to say these people are just as critical as other people, like opposition political parties, you know. But now reggae in South Africa is not recognized whatsoever. For example, even in the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, national, you will never hear of an event that is dedicated to reggae, where there are a lot of resources, or an event where reggae musicians are 50% represented. You always have to squeeze them, you know, from national to provincial, even local. Now, coming to that one, I was still talking about the chap who tried to introduce Rasta activities into government. Yes, sir. Which eventually managed to flew back to show you that the government is not interested in supporting these particular activities. They actually sabotaged that particular activity, took it away from the Rasta people, and implemented the activity independent of the Rasta community. And as we speak, the Rasta people are no longer involved in that particular.
Yeah, man.
Now,
Yeah, man.
another one is
If I say
the
better.
Black History Month,
Ba
which
go
is
le
also
tlo
one
I
of
le
these
sila siya yung
bodies,
tumitingin sa party ma. Let us
that's
watch this.
adopted by the Rasta community.
Kiswa kaka, dale Rastafari, and I'm still trotting. The Bingy use them trotting.